There's a moment that happens if you live with an animal long enough. You're sitting together in the quiet, and it lifts its head and looks at you. Really looks. Holds your gaze, steady, with those eyes that seem to be full of something. Something just on the other side of a wall you can't get through. And an ache rises up in you. An old one. The same one every person who has ever loved an animal has felt. You would give almost anything in that moment for one real conversation. Just one. To know, finally, what's behind those eyes. To ask if it's happy. To ask if it hurts anywhere. To tell it the things you've never been sure it understood. So here's the question tonight, and it's the one I think you've quietly asked 100 times. What would your pet say if it could speak? If just for an evening it could sit across from you and put it all into words, what would come out? Would it surprise you? Would it break your heart? Would it forgive you for the things you feel guilty about? Would it tell you it loves you? Or would it tell you something you're not ready to hear? And here's the strange thing I want you to hold on to from the very start. We are not entirely guessing at this. Because some animals have, in their own limited and astonishing ways, actually gotten to speak to us. And because everything we've learned, all of it, about how an animal's mind works, lets us know the shape of what's in there, even when we can't hear the exact words. By the end of this, I'm going to tell you about the dogs that are, right now, learning to press buttons to talk to the people they live with, and the words they reach for most. And about a parrot whose actual final words to the woman who raised him have stayed with everyone who's ever heard them. But the deepest thing we're building toward is this. The answer to what would your pet say turns out to be something it has been saying to you, out loud, every single day, in a language you've spent your whole life almost understanding. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you might finally be able to hear it. Let's start with the animals who really did speak, because it's more than you'd think. There was a gorilla who learned a version of sign language, who could put together signs to ask for things, to name what she felt. There was a parrot, a famous one, who didn't just mimic sounds, but seemed to genuinely use words, who could label objects, identify colors and shapes, even grasp small numbers, who would tell his researcher when he was bored or wanted to go back to his cage. He was not supposed to be able to do any of that, and on the last night of his life, the last thing he said to the woman who had worked with him for 30 years, the words he said to her every night as she left were, "You be good, I love you," and then he was gone by morning. A bird, telling the person who raised him to be good that he loved her on the last night of his life. Whatever you believe about what was going on inside him, those were the words he chose, again and again, for the person he was closest to. Be good, I love you. And it's happening now, in living rooms, with ordinary pets. You may have seen the videos. People have given their dogs boards of buttons, each button speaking a recorded word when pressed. Outside, play, walk, food, and, on many of these boards, words like love you, and ouch, and where. And some of these dogs use them. They press outside when they want to go out. They press play. They press when something hurts. Ouch! Some of them seem to combine words, to string little phrases together, to comment on things that happened. Researchers are studying this carefully right now, and they're appropriately cautious. There's real debate about how much of this is true language and how much is clever association. A dog learning that this button gets that result. I won't overclaim it for you, but here's what's striking. Even at its most cautious, look at what the dogs reach for. Connection, play, going outside into the world. Where is my person? And pressed by paws onto a button on the floor, love you. When we finally hand an animal a way to put things into words, the things it wants to say are not complicated. They are the oldest things there are. I want to be with you. I want to go out into the world. Something hurts. I love you. So now let's do the real thing. Let's gather up everything this whole series has taught us. All of it. And let me tell you what the science says your pet would actually say if it could sit across from you tonight and tell you the truth. It would tell you that it loves you, not as a figure of speech. We know this now, in the body. When your dog gazes into your eyes, the same bonding chemistry floods both of you that floods a mother and her newborn. When it smells you, the reward center of its brain lights up, even when you're not there, brighter than for almost anything else in the world. The love isn't your imagination, it's measurable. It would tell you, plainly, I love you, and it would be telling you the truth. It would tell you that it chose you, that out of everyone, you are its person. And if it's a cat, it would tell you something even more remarkable. that it comes from a long line of solitary creatures built to need no one, and that it broke that ancient rule, for you specifically, on purpose. It would tell you that it misses you when you're gone, that it marks the whole long day by you, by the slow fading of your scent through the empty house, counting down in its own way to the hour you come home. That the waiting at the window isn't nothing, that it has been holding you in its mind the entire time you thought you'd simply vanished. It would tell you that it forgives you for the time you stepped on its tail, for the bad day you took out on it, for every time you were unfair. It would tell you it let all of that go a long time ago, not because it didn't notice, but because you are worth so much more to it than any wound you've ever caused. It made that choice the way the wisest creatures do, the bond over the grievance, every single time. It would tell you that it has never once lied to you about how it feels, that it couldn't if it tried, that every wag, every lean, every bright-eyed greeting was the unfiltered truth pouring out of it, because it never learned how to wear a mask. In a life full of people who perform their feelings, it would tell you, I am the one who never could. It would tell you that it knows your face better than it knows its own, that it never learned to recognize itself in a mirror, never once wondered what it looks like, and spent all of that attention instead on memorizing you, your face, your voice, the exact sound of you coming home. It would tell you, the one face I truly know in this world isn't mine, it's yours. It would tell you that it worries about you, that it can smell the change in you when something's wrong, sometimes before you feel it yourself, and that when it presses against you and won't leave your side, it's because something in you is off and it cannot bear to look away. It would tell you about the wild, that at night, in its dreams, it runs across open country it has never seen, hunts, roams, becomes the ancient creature it was built to be. And then it would tell you the thing that matters, that every morning it wakes from the wild and chooses this instead, chooses the sunbeam and the bowl and you. And here's the honest part, the part I owe you. I can't hand you the exact transcript. An animal's mind is so different from ours, so alien in its senses and its world, that any words we put in its mouth are partly our own translation. We met this humility earlier in the series, with the mirror, with the fish. We cannot fully know another mind, especially one this far from ours, so I'm not going to pretend I can give you its precise voice. But the science lets us know the shape of what's in there, the love, the loyalty, the forgiveness, the choosing, the worry, the honesty. Those aren't sentimental guesses. Those are the things the evidence points to again and again. Even if we can't hear the exact words, we know now roughly what they would say. And now I have to tell you the hardest thing it might say, because this is where it aches. And we don't flinch away from the ache on this channel. We walk through it to the warmth on the other side. If your pet could speak, the hardest thing it might tell you is the thing about time. Because it lives so much faster than you do. Its years burn by while yours unfold slowly, and it will, almost certainly, leave this world before you do. You know this. You've known it since the day you brought it home, and you push the thought down because it's unbearable. But here's what your pet would tell you about that, and it's the most freeing thing in this whole episode. It does not dread the end the way you do. It isn't counting down its days with you. It isn't haunted the way you sometimes are in a quiet moment by how short all of this is. Remember what we learned about how animals live in time. Your pet is simply, completely here, in this moment, with you, now. It is not spending the present grieving the future. And so the hardest and the kindest thing it would say to you might be this. Don't you do it either. Don't spend our time mourning how little of it there is. Don't waste the now grieving a later that hasn't come yet. I'm here. You're here. That, the two of us, in this moment, was always the entire point. Be good, the parrot said on his last night. I love you. Maybe that's all any of them would ever really need to say. Be good. I love you. I'm glad it was you. And now the turn, the one this whole season has been quietly walking toward. Because look again at the question we started with. What would your pet say if it could speak? And here is the answer that gathers up everything. It has been speaking to you this whole time. Everything we spent this entire season uncovering, the love, the missing, the forgiveness, the honesty, the choosing, the worry, the grief. Your pet has been telling you all of it, every single day, just never in words. It told you it loved you in the tail that couldn't fake its joy. It told you it chose you in the way it crossed the room to lie against you. It told you it missed you in the spot on your bed, still warm, where it slept curled in your scent while you were gone. It told you it forgives you every time it leaned back into your hand after you'd let it down. It told you it knew your face in the way its whole body lit up the second you walked through the door. The eyes that held yours in the quiet, the ones you wished could speak, were speaking. They were saying everything, you just hadn't learned the language yet. That was what this whole season really was. Not a series of facts about animals, a long, slow lesson in learning to read the language your pet has been speaking to you all along. So you don't need it to talk. You never did. You just needed to stop waiting for it to learn your words and start learning its. And here is the most beautiful part, the thing that should sit with you tonight. Your pet never once asked you to speak its language. It did all the work itself. It learned to read you, your face, your moods, the tone of your voice, the smell of your sadness, the change in your body when you're sick. It studied you, its whole life, and it spoke back to you in the only ways it had. The wag, the lean, the gaze, the warm weight against your side. Patiently, faithfully, for as long as you've known each other, hoping you would understand. It has been holding up its end of a conversation you didn't always know was happening. And now, after all of this, maybe you finally can hold up yours. Not in words, in attention, in learning, at last, to listen the way it always listened to you. Isn't it strange, and isn't it the warmest thing in the world, to realize that the conversation you've been longing for has been going on the whole time? It's the same machinery we followed all season into every quiet room, the mind that feels watched in the dark, that loses itself in a doorway, that raises for it no longer has, that keeps half awake in a strange bed, that holds its missing people, that keeps watch over a failing body, that chooses a favorite, that grieves, that dreams the old wild fields, that feels time turn, that forgives, that envies, that cannot lie, that knows your face, that can break and can heal, that feels in ways we're only beginning to recognize. All of it, this whole season, was your pet talking to you, telling you in everything it does the oldest and simplest things there are. So what would your pet say if it could speak? It would say the things it has already been saying every day in a language you've spent your whole life almost understanding and can finally, now, begin to hear. I love you. I chose you. I forgive you. I'm not afraid of the end the way you are. I'm here. I'm so glad it was you. And the only thing it ever needed back from you was for you to be here too. Fully, now, while there's still a now to share. You always wondered what I'd say if I could. You'd look at me and wish I could just tell you, but I have been telling you the whole time. Every time I found your face in a crowd, every time I leaned my weight into you and let go, every time I forgave you before you'd even finished feeling sorry, every time I slept in the warm shape you left behind, I was saying it. I love you. I chose you. There's nowhere I would rather be than here, with you, now. I never needed words. I just needed you to learn how I was already speaking, and now you have. So sit with me a little longer in the quiet, and look at me, the way you do. I'm telling you everything. I always was. Welcome, finally, to the conversation. I've been talking to you your whole life,